What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of Touchline Talk right here at 110 Sports. This is going to be a phenomenal end to the Premier League season. If what happened in the championship yesterday is any indication, we're in for a real treat on Sunday. We're just going to hop right into it. Starting Arsenal, Aston Villa. We're not even going to talk about what happened to Watford against Manchester City. We'll get to the impact that had on Watford at the end where we look ahead to Sunday. But I said on Tuesday, if Aston Villa can find a way to even take a point from this game, it's going to be really beneficial, and it changes the complexion of this relegation battle heading into match day 38. And that's exactly what happened. Not only did they get a point, they got all three. Not a shocking result from the sense that Arsenal, even as they have started to look better under Mikel Arteta, still inconsistent at times. They put everything they had into that FA Cup semi-final over the weekend, put in a really good performance, got the result that they wanted, and so now you come in and you're on the outskirts of the Europa League conversation. That it's not like you really had all that much to play for, where obviously Villa has everything to play for. And so you get a poor performance from Arsenal. Aston Villa finds a way to squeak out a goal. Never was able to put the game away, but they did enough to hold on for that 1-0 victory. And all of a sudden now they're in control of their own destiny. And they also have the benefit of Watford giving up 4 goals to Manchester City. So a terrific day for Villa. And then you get into yesterday, Manchester United, West Ham. West Ham had not clinched safety at that point. There was a very, very low probability they were ever going to actually get relegated, considering their recent uptick in form. But they still had something to play for. Obviously, this was about Manchester United, though. And it was not the greatest first half performance from United. And then Paul Pogba does something I don't know if I've really ever seen before. At least there's nothing like that coming to mind for me, where he just, instead of turning around or just making sure his hands don't go up or anything else, he just extends his body and flails his arms out there and the ball hits him. Now, it's one of those tough situations because it's very much human instinct. The free kick was coming at him. I mean, he was just trying to defend himself. But when you're Paul Pogba and this is Manchester United and you're in a race for the Champions League, you got to find a different way to deal with that and a different way to protect yourself than throwing your arms out there like that. That is the definition of making yourself bigger. When we get into these conversations about what a handball is, I mean, that was just as obvious as it gets. And so all of a sudden, United are 1-0 down at halftime. And Mason Greenwood comes through with a goal. He's been so good recently. They put together a little bit better performance in the second half. And they get the draw, which is really all that they needed. We'll explain why when we get to what's next and go through all of the scenarios relating to the top 4 at the end of the show today. But United will live with the result. Of course, you want to win that game and make your life easier. But they avoided the catastrophe of a loss. They still have this unbeaten run going in the league. De Gea was good and much better than he was in the FA Cup semifinal. So they're fine, but it's just another twist in this tale that is going to come to such an exciting conclusion on Sunday. And you follow that up with Liverpool-Chelsea. Liverpool obviously motivated just from the sense that this is finally their time to lift the trophy. This is their moment. And so they put 5 past Chelsea. And were in complete control of this game until Christian Pulisic showed up. And then Chelsea made it interesting until Liverpool was able to add a 5th and really put the game away. Christian Pulisic is just ridiculously good right now. This is easily the best run of form I've ever seen him in. And, I mean, it's a fairly obvious statement at this point. It was one thing for him to do it for 3 or 4 games, but he's been their best player since the restart. And he showed you why again against Liverpool. It doesn't matter who they're playing. He is incredibly dangerous. And from the other thing I'll say about him, because this is really more about his team, but anybody who wants to understand how you get to that level and how you look that dangerous going forward and you have that much confidence, watch what he does with his first touch. Watch the way he approaches when he receives the ball. Everything is thinking about going forward. It's how do I attack? How do I advance us up the field? It's always positive thinking from him. It's one of his greatest attributes that you just don't see in very many people. He's thinking about how do I get closer to the net? How do I make us more dangerous? How do we get on the front foot with everything he does? And now you combine that with the coaching of Frank Lampard and the players he has around him at Chelsea and the opportunity he's been given, and he's been phenomenal. And for Chelsea, this puts him in a rather tough situation because you got to go play Wolves and you have nothing locked up. You know, Manchester United opened a door for them to feel much better about their situation today than they do because they weren't able to get that win. Now, it's a big ask to go beat Liverpool on the day they're lifting the Premier League trophy, and I get that. But there are reasons to think that every single one of these 3 teams still in this top 4 race are in real danger and can absolutely be beaten or end up disappointed at the end of this thing, which is just going to set up for a terrific finish to the season. Speaking of finishes to the season, how about what happened in the championship? We're not going to go through everything, and the most important part of the whole relegation aspect to this is that we're not even entirely sure what's going to happen because Wigan is currently relegated, but if they win an appeal, then they might not be. So it's not the bottom of the table isn't even totally solidified yet. There could be more unpredictable just chaos coming. But up at the top, which is the part I want to focus on here, for obvious reasons, because it clearly, it relates to the Premier League because these are the teams coming up next season. So West Brom draw, Brentford lose to Barnsley, who somehow managed to stay up, which is incredible, and Fulham draw. Those are your 3 teams that had a chance to gain automatic promotion. None of them won. But the draw combined with the Brentford loss was enough for West Brom, under former West Ham managers Slaven Bilic, to get back up automatically. So your 2 automatically promoted teams, Leeds United, who we talked about on Tuesday, and West Brom, who have been a relative staple in the Premier League for the last handful of seasons. They've never been particularly good. They were always a danger to go down. But they have been one of the top 20, 25 teams in England consistently. So they're a team that you look at and you say, with some good signings, with the players they already have, they've got a real chance of staying up. And they understand what this is and how the Premier League works. So 2 very interesting, very good teams with pedigree coming back up, which is exciting from my perspective. So that leaves you with your 4 teams in the playoff. Your 3 seed is Brentford, who's been one of the best teams in this league all season and just couldn't put it together these last couple games. Your 4 seed is Fulham, your 5 seed is Cardiff City, and your 6 seed is Swansea, who snuck in a very, if you want to talk about just exciting ends and unpredictability and chaos and all of those wonderful things, just go look at what happened across this league yesterday. We don't have time to get into all of it, but I did want to at least acknowledge the playoff part of this. So Brentford's going to face Swansea. Fulham faces Cardiff City. Those 2 winners then play in the playoff final. That team goes to the Premier League next season. The playoffs start Sunday and Monday with the first legs, and then you've got the second legs after that until your one-off final. Just like any other season that hasn't changed with COVID. So congratulations to West Brom. I'm very curious to see what they can do because we've had a lot of new teams coming up recently. We haven't seen as many retreads, which is what West Brom is. This from manager on down, this is a team that's been there before in recent memory, understands how the Premier League operates, what it takes to be somewhat successful there, at least, stay up. So, congratulations to them. Brentford's got to feel really disappointed in how things ended, but you got to just pick yourselves up and then get ready to go again, because Swansea are just exuberant that they're actually in this thing. And this is one of the more entertaining, we're going to talk about this in the supporters corner a little bit later, but this is one of the more entertaining events on the soccer calendar for me. And you just don't know what's going to happen. Brentford is the best team in this playoff, but that doesn't mean much. So, who knows what happens, but Brentford, Fulham, Cardiff, Swansea, your 4 teams still alive. West Brom is up with Leeds United already automatically. That was just unbelievable what happened in the championship. You also had the NWSL semifinals. Houston Dash, deserving winners over the Portland Thorns. They get a 1-0 victory on a Rachel Daly goal. Not exactly pretty, but like I said, they deserved it. They were the better team. They were on the front foot. They were aggressive from the beginning. Portland took a long time to find their feet and sort of get into this game. Lindsey Horan was out with an injury, which obviously is a massive blow for that team. You just look at the pieces that they didn't have, from her to Becky Sauerbrunn. You lost your starting goalkeeper, who's a U.S. women's national team player, and Adriana Franch didn't play in the tournament. They were really depleted. They put together a valiant effort to knock out North Carolina and give themselves a chance in this game, but they just couldn't put the end product together. So this Houston team that looked really good and then really struggled to find goals looked much, much better with a renewed sense of purpose. They're going to be dangerous. They are extremely confident. They've certainly surprised me and are on to a final, so good for them. And Rachel Daly is one of the more entertaining players in this league from just a visual standpoint. She's very emotional. She's the heart and soul of that team in so many ways. They're a force to be reckoned with, and it can absolutely go on and defeat their opponent in the final, who's the Chicago Red Stars. Finally, Chicago got their front 3, their attackers, going. The first 15-20 minutes of this game were all about Kalia Watt. She absolutely destroyed Sky Blue's defense. It resulted in 2 very quick goals. Chicago put a third on the board. Credit to Sky Blue. They fought back and got 2 in rather quick succession to respond and have a chance at equalizing late. Just couldn't get it done. So Chicago survives. So Houston, Chicago in your NWSL Challenge Cup final. Both were the better teams in their games. Absolutely deserved to be there. And have been as good as anybody in this tournament, not named North Carolina. I mean, just the parity's been incredible, so it's really hard to predict anything and say anybody does or doesn't deserve to be in the final. So when it mattered most, they put together really good performances. Can't complain about it. Congratulations to both of those teams. Really looking forward to that final on Sunday as well. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get to what's next. We're going to take our first break here, and when we come back, we're going into the supporters corner with William Locke. We're going to talk Arsenal, we're going to talk Premier League, and we're going to talk Championship. Just sort of everything that's been happening, what's going to happen this weekend, all of those things. Very good conversation. Always enjoy talking to William, so you're not going to want to miss that. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Touchline Talk on 110 Sports. Welcome back to Touchline Talk right here on 110 Sports. Before we get into our supporters corner for this week, I also wanted to mention we've got some news expansion team-wise, both in the NWSL and MLS. So NWSL, Racing Louisville FC, officially announced the name. They are coming in next season. This is the counterpart to Louisville's USL team on the men's side, and is going to be overseen by James O'Connor, who most recently was the coach of Orlando City, was the Louisville men's coach before that, so he has experience in this organization. He's been well-traveled in American soccer at this point. So there's some pedigree that's building this team. I'm very curious to see what kind of staff and roster and organization he can put together. And perhaps the bigger news because of the people involved, NWSL is coming to Los Angeles in 2022. Right now it's being called Angel City. They're still working on a name, but this is similar to LAFC. It is not the same ownership group, but it is just as star-studded. Mia Hamm is once again involved, Abby Wambach, and plenty of other former U.S. women's national team players. And then you have the Hollywood side of this, your Natalie Portmans of the world. Serena Williams' daughter is now, the youngest co-owner of a sports team in the United States at the age of 2. It's a phenomenal ownership group who are very determined to make this thing happen and make this thing happen in a big way. It's obviously incredibly exciting. This is the sort of momentum and perfectly timed coming to the end of the NWSL Challenge Cup. This league's got some momentum, so now you add this on top of it. Cannot wait to see what this team puts together in the next couple seasons before they actually start playing. This is as close as you're going to get to the LAFC style introduction on the women's side, I think. And obviously you've got the Mia Hamm connection, who has done this before. This is a very, very experienced, intelligent, determined group. So very, very exciting, both of those developments. And the NWSL simply needs more teams. You continue to see the depth of this league and the players that don't get the minutes they deserve because there aren't enough spots on rosters. And so adding a couple of teams is going to really help with that. It's great to see this league healthy and continuing to grow. MLS-wise, no new expansion teams announced, but there's a new timeline for the teams that are already preparing to come into the league because of delays with COVID and logistical challenges and just all of the uncertainty right now. Sort of MLS has pushed back their timetable a little bit. So Austin FC is still coming in 2021. They were farther ahead, and being in Texas were able to sort of continue working during this pandemic. They've got coach, technical director. They're well on their way. This is your Claudio Reyna, formerly of NYCFC, Gio Reyna's dad, and Josh Wolf, who was Greg Berhalter's assistant. They've got some experience in this league and with the U.S. talent pool. So they're busy putting things together. They're still on track to come next season. Charlotte FC just announced their name. It's sort of unfortunate they didn't go with something else, but it's Charlotte FC. They're coming in 2022. So they're next in the line of progression. And then St. Louis and Sacramento will be getting their teams in 2023. Yeah, obviously, there's just so much that goes into making this happen. You want to do it right. You want to make sure that it's set up for long-term success. So a little bit of a delay in change in plans on the MLS side, but that's what you have to look forward to in terms of expansion teams. As promised, we're now going to get into our supporters corner. Our guest this week is William Locke, co-host of the Critics Corner podcast, so definitely check that out as well. Talk to William about all kinds of different things. I wanted to have him on to get his Arsenal perspective with, the Mikel Arteta development and getting into an FA Cup final. You're going to hear him talk about why that's so important. And then also going and losing to Villa. It's still not perfect under Arteta, but certainly better, so I wanted to get his thoughts on that, as well as the league as a whole. And you're gonna see he's very high on one of these teams that's in the championship playoffs. So I wanted him to explain why he likes them so much. And we recorded this interview during all of the chaos yesterday, the Liverpool-Chelsea game and the championship results. So we sort of have a live reaction to the way that things shook out, which is fun, and sort of hopefully you enjoy our little back and forth of just we're reacting to information as it comes in. So very exciting. Without further ado, our supporter corners this week with William Locke. Thanks so much for joining us today, William. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right. So first thing I like to start with is how you got into soccer, how you got into supporting the team that you do. So for you, where did your Arsenal soccer journey start?
Arsenal. So me and my best friend Armand growing up, like freshman, sophomore year of high school, we started playing FIFA. We just got really into FIFA, and he had been an Arsenal fan from his dad growing up. So I just, I guess I kind of hopped on the trend, and that's kind of how I got into soccer. And I would watch the Premier League. I didn't really have a team per se because, Armand liked Arsenal, but I really wasn't that into it. And then our senior year, we went to London for a trip, and we went to an Arsenal game, and they were playing Man City. They won 2-1. I think that was like the last time we've beaten Man City in the league. That was in 2015. And then, I was just hooked. The atmosphere was incredible, and obviously winning. And so it's like, all right, I went full bore, and that's when I became a big Arsenal fan. And then, so I started watching all the games and whatnot. And then, I studied in London for a semester, junior year of college. So I was able to go to a lot of games there. I would say really got into soccer early in high school, and then, Arsenal fandom has just grown throughout the years.
So what was the experience being in London for a semester like? Because I feel like as just people who live in the U.S., it's hard to actually understand English soccer culture completely, but you were actually immersed in it for an extended period of time. You and I have talked about all the different stadiums you got to go to, the different atmospheres. So for you, what was it like to actually be part of English soccer culture for months instead of just taking a trip?
Yeah, it was so much fun. Obviously in London, there's so many different clubs, not just Premier League, but also like in the Championship, even League One. I mean, the tickets are really cheap. I went to a West Ham game. I think that I spent like £30, so like $40 or whatever, to sit really close to the pitch. Watford tickets were super cheap. Obviously both of those games they were playing Cardiff, so that might have a role in that, but still. But it's obviously the biggest sport there, and it's in the papers every day. It's all they talk about, all you see on like Sky Sports and stuff. And I feel like, I guess my soccer fandom grew. I was always big into it, but I felt like welcomed. Also, you kind of like in America, you kind of get the vibe that, all English people hate American soccer fans or whatever, because we don't know anything about the sport, when in reality, we're waking up bright and early on Saturday mornings when, you could have been out the last night or whatever, hungover or whatever, waking up early. You could argue American soccer fans are even more dedicated than they
Absolutely.
are. So I felt welcome, though. All the people I met were really nice. And, even if it wasn't going to a game in person or just going to like a pub to watch a game, the atmosphere there too was really fun. So, yeah, unfortunately now that, with everything going on, I can't go back there. But whenever the chance comes, I'm definitely going to want to take a trip back over there and see, a game.
Was there a specific moment or a specific venue you went to that stood out for one reason or another? Obviously, it meant something different getting to go to the Emirates or something like that, but just a random team that you went to go play and thought that ground is more interesting, more exciting than I thought.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely Watford.
Interesting.
It's located it was like an hour away from our place, like in central London. So it's more of a suburban club. But I really love that the stadium was really super small. And, we walked through the tunnel or whatever, to our gate, and we were literally right on the pitch. And, it was cool to see such like quality players, Premier League quality players, the best players in the world, like literally 5 feet away. And we were sitting closer to the top of our section. And even then we were essentially right on the pitch. And it was like 25, 30 degrees, pouring rain the whole game. It was miserable. Like my feet were cinder blocks by the end of the game, but I just, it felt like you were almost on the pitch. So that one, like, honestly, was probably my favorite game out of all the games I went to in England. And then AC Milan, the San Siro in Italy, going there was incredible. Just obviously it's not like the nicest stadium because it's old, but there's so much history there.
Right.
And the fans are just a different level in Italy. So those were two that really stood out to me, I would say, outside the Emirates, of course.
Of course. Very nice. So transitioning to Arsenal this season, first of all, now that we're getting close, one game left with an FA Cup final still to play, has this season exceeded your expectations? Has it been about what you expected? Has it been disappointing? First, based off of just the perspective of where you were at heading into the season when Unai Emery was still the coach and before the things that have happened. But just if you were to take the situation now at the beginning of the season, how would you have felt about that?
Oh, definitely the most disappointing season as an Arsenal fan since I started watching. I think it's our worst season points-wise since like 94. We're probably going to we're guaranteed to finish between 8th and 10th. So, it was a super disappointing season, especially coming off what most people thought to be a pretty solid transfer window last summer, bringing in Nicolas Pepe. Yep. I mean, we paid way too much for him, 70 mil. I think he still had a great season. He's gotten hated on a lot, but he's actually been pretty quality. Bringing in an experienced center back in David Luiz, who has given us some pretty good performances, I must say. But he's also had his fair share of blunders, and you tend to remember the failures more than the great games he's had. But then we also bring in Tierney, who's been great for us this season. I think he'll be our left back moving forward. But starting out in the season, we had a couple good results. Like we beat Newcastle and we beat Burnley, but it was kind of where we were getting the results, but we weren't really having great performances per se. And then, as we moved along in the season, the performances were still poor, and then the results started to come with that. We started dropping points against teams we really weren't supposed to, drawing against Norwich, the blunder against Crystal Palace when Xhaka came off and was, egging on the crowd as the captain. And it got really ugly there for a little bit in the fall, moving into the winter fixtures. But ever since we brought in Arteta, I would say I've been very encouraged. I think the performances have gotten better, but I think the most important thing is that the players appear to be really bought in on his system,
absolutely,
and his way of playing football. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. Arsenal have actually been looking forward to watching the games. I felt like under Unai Emery toward the end, I was just like I knew it was going to be ugly, and I just never looking forward to watching Arsenal play. And we, the club was stagnating. We weren't going anywhere with them, so we had to get rid of him. But I think Arteta is the right man for the job. And I love that he's pushing the board, telling them, like after the Liverpool game last week that we won 2-1, which was so funny in itself. He said after the game, he's basically saying, in his post-match interview, he was saying, like, yeah, we won, but you can still see how big the gap is between us and Liverpool. And he's like, I need the backing and the financial support of the board, Kroenke and Sinyehi, to get the players that we need to close this gap. Obviously, we need to bolster the defense, most importantly. We really need a midfielder to link the play between the defense and the attack, with Ozil clearly being excluded by Arteta. He obviously just doesn't rate him, and we need to get his ridiculous salary off the books anyway. He's our highest paid player, and hasn't been in the team, I don't think, since the restart. Or he's been in the team, but he hasn't made an appearance. Yeah. So we got to get rid of him. And if the board backs Arteta, I mean, I'm going to be encouraged moving forward. And obviously we got a lot of young youth talent like Martinelli and Saka. So I'm generally excited, even though we're 10th. But yeah, I think the direction of the club is going the right way under Arteta.
In terms of continuing to build that momentum, because I'm very much in the same place that, right, this takes time, this takes investment. Mm-hmm. You've got to retool some things in order to get back to where Arsenal wants to be. but that you're seeing positive signs under Arteta. So how important do you think specifically this FA Cup final is, both from the standpoint of actually getting to an FA Cup final again, which is obviously something this team is very accomplished at doing, and getting a win against Manchester City in the process, from just getting the confidence of being there, playing at Wembley again for a trophy, and also the importance of actually then going on and winning it?
Yeah, it's massive in terms of European qualification. Obviously, you want to beat Chelsea in a cup final, London rivals. But most importantly, I was texting you like last week. I was saying, I don't know, do we really want to be in Europa League? We can just concentrate on the Premier League. But then, I was thinking like, post-COVID, the financial situation is probably, different than it was. Oh, it definitely is different than it was pre-COVID. Right. We need that European money. We need the European football. We need all the extra, TV, whatever that comes with it. So I think, it's vital to win. I guess it's August 1st against Chelsea. And, we want to beat our London rivals, and specifically Giroud. He's obviously FA Cup king. He seems to always come up big in FA Cup finals for us in the past. So I can see him probably scoring a goal or something. But yeah, it's big. It's a big one.
And I think the Europa League thing is interesting, particularly next season too, for this group of teams, your Arsenal, Spurs, whoever ends up missing out on the Champions League spot, Wolves. From the standpoint that, in theory, if you're looking at the best teams heading into next season, you've got Liverpool, City, Chelsea is reloading, and you've got to feel really good if you're Manchester United. So all of a sudden, there's your top four.
Right.
And so having a path to get back into the Champions League next season, to me, the easiest way to do that, if you have the opportunity, is through the Europa League.
Definitely.
Are you sort of the same mindset that that's a real spot to get Arsenal or anybody else back into the Champions League?
Oh, definitely. I think, like you said, if you look at the Premier League, Liverpool and City are locks year in, year out to finish top four. Unless, I don't know, Kevin De Bruyne gets his leg amputated or something, like they're going to be finishing top four.
Even then, they might still do it.
Yeah. Chelsea are retooling. They still got to retool that defense. So they're not locks, but they're looking good. Especially moving forward. And then, that fourth spot with United, depending on what they do this summer, they're pretty solid. So, the competition is probably worse in the Europa League than it is in the Prem. But then you'll have, whoever doesn't finish top four this season, it'll probably come down to two Premier League teams like it has in the past, or maybe like a Sevilla or something. But if those are games that you should be winning if you want to play Champions League football anyway. So, Europa League is a great outlet to qualify for the Champions League. And I really wish we beat Chelsea in that final last year. Still have some PTSD from that one. So, definitely.
And then moving into this year's top four race. So Manchester United got a draw, which is good. It puts them in a position where if they come away with something, they're top four. Chelsea obviously has the opportunity to play themselves in still. What do you think is going to happen, and have the past couple results over the weekends, United stumbling a little bit, Chelsea getting demolished by Liverpool as we're speaking, has it changed your thoughts on what's going to happen, and just sort of what is your prediction for what things are going to look like at the top of the table, 1 through 5? Obviously 1 and 2 are decided, but come Sunday afternoon when this thing is over.
Yeah, it's been wild because everything that I've expected to happen really hasn't happened.
Right.
When I thought United would blow by West Ham today, didn't happen. They salvaged a draw. Obviously, they played much better in the second half than they did in the first. And then Chelsea, getting demolished by Liverpool, I kind of saw that coming. And then at the weekend, they had the FA Cup game, and then before that, I think they beat Norwich. So, and then Leicester's obviously been really, really poor since the restart. I think they're a completely different team without, obviously, Maddison hasn't been in the squad, and the fullbacks, Chilwell and Pereira, are vital to the team. But it's not like they don't deserve Champions League, because they've proved it throughout the course of the season. They're still in fourth place right now. So, It's all really going to come down to that Man U and Leicester game. I believe if they draw, because since Chelsea is going to lose, if they draw and then Chelsea end up losing to Wolves, it would be Man U and Leicester, and Chelsea miss out. But if Chelsea get a result against Wolves and they draw, then Leicester's out.
Right. This Chelsea thing has then brought in all of it into the equation, as opposed to Chelsea just controlling their own destiny to lock up a spot. Now it's what happens with Chelsea, and then that determines it's just chaos, and it's wonderful. So if you have to pick who ends up third, fourth, fifth.
Yeah. I would probably say Man U I think they're going to pick up the 3 points against Leicester. Well, it's in Leicester though. Yeah, I think Man U's form has been a little bit overrated since the restart. Obviously, people are praising them, and rightfully so. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has completely changed the squad and allowing Pogba to play deeper, distribute through the back. Bruno Fernandes licks up the play, and they have guys that can finish. But they've also stumbled. I mean, the draw against Southampton was killer. The draw against West Ham today was killer. Obviously, they looked horrible in the FA Cup semifinal against Chelsea at the weekend. So Leicester could very well pull the 3 points or even pull out a draw. But if I had to pick, I would say 3. I think Man U are going to get the 3 points against Leicester this weekend. Then 4. I mean, I guess it wouldn't matter at that point for Chelsea, even if they lose.
Chelsea, right.
Chelsea would finish 4th, and then Leicester 5th, just missing out. I think this Soyuncu red card against Bournemouth was
brutal,
detrimental for them. You're not as high on him as some people are, but he's still better than Wes Morgan.
Right. Oh, and
at the back.
Right. So. And to me, that was the difference against Spurs, is that you had 3 incredibly unathletic center backs out there trying to stop Harry Kane in counterattacks.
Right.
Can't do it.
It's Wes Morgan looks like he hasn't been in training in months, and he's a little thick, and he's 35 years old.
34, 35, yeah.
35. It's like should have ran out Robert Huth or something out there with him too, huh? We'll throw back to 15 season.
And then we also have, to me, what is always sort of the most exciting part of this whole thing, which is relegation. Mm-hmm. And Arsenal, after those positive results, a very good performance in the FA Cup semifinals, loses to Aston Villa, which means Aston Villa now is in control. Mm-hmm. What do you think happens between Villa, Watford, and Bournemouth, who are all still in some way, shape, or form alive in this thing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I kind of saw that Arsenal result coming. I mean, just Villa fighting for their lives. Classic Arsenal. Coming off a emotional high on Saturday against Man City, kind of rotating the squad. Tired legs, Sad Kolasinac starting at center back anytime. He's going to get moved on. But I think Villa stay up. Who do they play at the weekend? They're at West Ham, I think.
Yeah, it's West Ham. Yeah.
West Ham are on the beach. They secure everything they needed to today. I think Villa, maybe pull out a draw, but I think Arsenal will pick up 3 points against Watford. They've turned into a train wreck after, really since the restart, firing Nigel Pearson because he might have gotten in a fight with the team halftime against West Ham. Just apparently the players aren't very confident right now.
Not at all.
So unfortunately I see Watford going down. And then I don't think Bournemouth could get a sneak result against Everton. Everton really aren't playing for anything. But I think we're gonna see Watford and Bournemouth in the Championship next season, and Villa somehow stay up.
And then final thing, you and I have talked a little about this, so I want to get your thoughts on what is happening in the Championship, both Leeds United coming up, and it looks like there's going to be some combination of Brentford and West Brom in 2-3, one of them getting automatic. Do we have an update?
Yeah, Barnsley beat Brentford 2-1, so looks like
it's West Brom.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are you expecting from West Brom and Leeds, and also I know you're high on Brentford. What makes you high on Brentford as they enter the promotion playoff, and what do you like about them as well?
Yeah, so congratulations to Leeds. I mean, being back in the Premier League first time in 16 years or 15 years. They're a Premier League club. I think if you look at the all-time table, they're actually 13th, having not played a game in the Premier League since 2004.
Yep.
So that's incredible. It just shows you how established they are and really how unfortunate and unlucky they were to be in the championship for so long. I think Bielsa does a great job with them tactically with the tiki-taka style. I think Pep actually learned from Bielsa in terms of coaching.
Raves about him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think they have obviously a world-class coach to keep them up. They need to go out this transfer window, pick up a quality striker. They've been rumored with Edison Cavani from PSG, which would be crazy.
I love it.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of player that they need to stay up. Because if you look at these teams that are always in the relegation fight, it's the main thing is they struggle to score goals. Bournemouth, obviously, Callum Wilson hasn't been what he has been in the past for them this season. I think that's part of the reason that they're in the relegation zone. Norwich, Pukki just lost form mid-season, and they're riding high with him, having beaten Man City and whatnot early in the season, but they stopped scoring goals.
Yep.
And obviously their defense is horrible too. But and then Watford, really same thing. Troy Deeney hasn't been himself this season. Danny Welbeck hasn't done much for them coming from Arsenal. So if they get that goal scorer, I think they can stay up. Same thing with West Brom. They have Matthias Pereira, a central attacking mid Brazilian guy. He's very good. He's their star player. They also have Hal Robson-Kanu from Wales. Yeah. I don't know if you remember the goal.
Oh, yeah.
16 euros against.
The man without the club.
Yes, exactly. And they have a striker that I can't think of. But they're going to be fighting for their lives, I think, next season in the Prem. And then, I think Brentford actually, who are going to be playing in the promotion playoffs now, which is really unfortunate. They kind of blew it at the weekend. They had a chance to overtake West Brom, but ended up losing to Stoke. They have the best attack, I think, out of the three potential promotion teams if they end up coming up. Saeed Benrahma, a left wing from Algeria. They call him the Algerian Messi. That's a little.
Of course they do.
He is incredibly skilled, and he's a great finisher. Obviously, they also have Ollie Watkins, a proven goal scorer. He's joint top goal scorer in the league, I think, with Mitrovic from Fulham. And then also they have Josh Da Silva through the midfield, an Arsenal Academy graduate, young player, English. So Brentford, I think, really, if they end up making it to the Premier League, which is at this point they might not. I mean, the promotion playoffs are just total crapshoot.
Right.
You really, really want to avoid the playoffs. Leeds fans know all about that. So we'll see what happens. I'm really hoping Brentford do get promoted. It'd be another London club in the Prem. But we could also be seeing Fulham or Cardiff back in the Prem, and then also Swansea snuck in to that sixth spot. So they're going to be playing Brentford and then Fulham, Cardiff in the first round. So three teams we've seen in the Premier League pretty recently, and then Brentford. So I'm excited. The promotion playoffs are some of the best, most exciting football.
Absolutely.
Every year.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite little sort of events in the soccer calendar is the promotion playoffs. So plenty to look forward to. Well, thank you so much for coming on, William. Really appreciate your insight and you taking the time to talk to us.
Yep. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
And thanks again to William for coming on. Really enjoyed that conversation. I always like it when we're able to cover everything from the team that whoever's coming on the show is, most ardently supporting, to getting to talk about why Watford has a really cool home field environment, and then we get to talk about the top four in the championship. So really appreciate all of that from William. Always enjoy the supporters corner. We're going to take one more break right now. When we come back, it is time, a special edition of What's Next, featuring MLS, NWSL, and of course, everything you need to know about all the things that can happen when the Premier League wraps up on Sunday and all the different scenarios involved with top four, relegation, a little bit of Europa League, all of that stuff. If there's any confusion or any questions, you do not want to miss it. We're just going to sort of roll through all of the scenarios, talk about what we think might happen. So very, very solid end to the show today. Stick around for that. You're watching Touchline Talk on 110 Sports. And welcome back to Touchline Talk. As promised before the break, our final segment, what's next, but a very special edition. Instead of going by day, we're going to go by league just because we need to make sure we cover everything in the Premier League. And the NWSL has a final coming up this weekend. So we're going to go by league. We're going to start in Major League Soccer. Tonight, two very interesting games to conclude the group stage of MLS is back. LA Galaxy Houston, LAFC Portland. We'll start with the Galaxy Houston. Chicharito is gone for the tournament for the Galaxy. Their time in the tournament very well ends today. There is a chance if they score enough goals, they can get through on goal difference, but it is very, very unlikely. Houston, on the other hand, is in much better shape. They need a win, but a win should do the trick. So Houston is essentially in a play-in game, depending on, we've got a delay in the game this morning, but Houston is still very much in control of their own destiny. The Galaxy need to do something profound in order to extend their stay in Orlando. And then your LAFC Portland. This is as good as any matchup you're going to see in the group stage based on form and performance so far. It's not the highest profile matchup, but Portland has been really good. Obviously, it's always difficult to play against, has a nice pedigree, both under Caleb Porter and now under Giovanni Severese. And LAFC is simply the best team in this league and always fun to watch. So that's one of the better games of the group stage, probably the best. The more interesting one from a tournament standpoint is the Galaxy and Houston, just because of the ramifications, and that game is going to go a long way in determining who advances out of those third place in those groups, because only 4 teams make it in addition to the 2 out of every group that qualify. So just because the group stage is coming to an end today does not mean that these games are just playing for regular season. There's still tournament scenarios and tournament seeding and qualification at stake as well. And then we get into the knockout stage. We're not going to go through everything that's going to happen because of the scenario that I just laid out with LA and Houston, and the fact that not everything is settled yet. So there are teams that are qualified, but nobody really knows who's playing who, except for the first round of games. Saturday, Orlando plays Montreal, Philadelphia plays New England. I'm going to take Orlando in this first game, but I would not be surprised at all if Montreal pulls this upset. Orlando's been really good. Orlando topped the group on goal difference. They gave up a goal to Philly and then equalized very, very quickly. It's 3 consistent performances under Oscar Pereira. He's doing a fantastic job. This team is confident for the first time in what feels like their entire history as an MLS franchise. So I'm going to say that it's enough. They're the better team at this moment in time. But Montreal was able to sort of turn things around and do what needed to be done to get through. And I will continue to say I like this team as a sleeper. But there are still questions. You know, this has not been the most ideal performances for Thierry Henry. And aside from a very, very positive brief spurt at the beginning of his stint in Montreal, you know, his managerial career has not gone all that well. It's still early. He's still learning. This is not France, you know, where he started. This is MLS. He's going to get time. I still think he deserves every chance. But it's becoming harder to buy into this team and to continue to back them as I have through this tournament. But we're not quite there yet. I would not be stunned if they pull this upset, but I'm going with Orlando, and I'm taking Philadelphia over New England. Philadelphia's been one of the better teams in this tournament, and they haven't even put together 90 minutes. You listen to Jim Curtin talk, he's still not thrilled with what they're doing. Brendan Aronson has been really good at times, but is still trying to figure out how to play as a number 10 and how to just really complement his strikers. They're deep. They've got a game changer to come off the bench in El Seno, which makes them really dangerous in tournaments like this. To be able to turn a game on its head very quickly, he's phenomenal at doing that. They've got both strikers now. The defense has been solid. You get your center defensive mid, Jose Martinez, back from his suspension. And so now this team is pretty much at full strength. I'm still not convinced they can actually win this thing, particularly with what LAFC and Columbus and Portland are doing. But I wouldn't rule it out. You saw what they could do in the playoffs last year when they came back against the Red Bulls, and they're just simply a better team than New England and are feeling pretty confident about themselves. So I'm going with Philadelphia there. That's our look at MLS. Not all that much just because there's so much uncertain. We'll react to everything on Tuesday because a lot's going to happen. We're going to get teams eliminated from this tournament. The knockout stage is going to start. But that's what we've got for now. And as I mentioned before, NWSL Challenge Cup, the final, Sunday. Houston Dash, Chicago Red Stars. I'm going to take the Chicago Red Stars. And I guessed once against Houston, I got it wrong. I'm going to do it again. We'll see what happens, but what I saw from Chicago's front line really gave me confidence that they're going to be able to do this. Because you have Julie Ertz at the back, because that midfield is fairly experienced, it's about getting the production from those attackers. And Kealia Watt was really good. You got Rachel Hill involved. They finally put together some really dangerous attacks and just movement from their front three that hadn't been there. You know, Watt had a really good chance in the quarterfinals that she wasn't able to take advantage of. And it's not just about scoring goals for her. It's about her being able to be that difference maker that can run at defenses, cause havoc, and just create opportunities for herself and others. And she was really good doing that, especially at the beginning of the game against Sky Blue. That's all I need to be convinced this team, who has been good in these kind of situations before and doesn't have to deal with North Carolina in the final this time like they did last season. That's all I need. You've got to to Aaron Net, very established goalkeeper. I'm going with Chicago, but this is absolutely up for grabs, and this whole tournament is a toss-up, which has been really fun. I would not be surprised one bit if Houston won. but I'm going with Chicago. I'm going with the experience and what I saw from that front three in the semifinals. And now it is time. The Premier League is coming to a close also on Sunday. So here is all of the scenarios as things currently sit. Thanks to the draw against West Ham, Manchester United is in the top 4 with a win or a draw or a loss and a Chelsea loss. So even if Leicester wins this game against Manchester United, United can still get through if Chelsea don't pick up points because of goal difference. And we're operating in a world where these are logical results. We're not going to... Most of them are guarantees one way or the other, but goal difference is still a thing. So we're assuming nobody's going to go win or lose 9-0 or anything like that. Leicester is in with a win or a draw and a Chelsea loss. So Leicester needs the point and Chelsea to not pick up any points, but the easier scenario is it's just winning in. And then the question becomes, is it Man U or Chelsea that gets that other spot? Chelsea is in with a win or a Leicester loss or a draw and a Leicester draw. So, Leicester is in 5th right now. So if things just play out, draws across the board, it's Chelsea and it's Manchester United that go through. Chelsea also is in control. The two teams, interestingly enough, everybody is in control of their own destiny. It's winning in for all three teams. So those are your scenarios in the top 4. Wolves are 1 point ahead of Spurs for 6th. These two teams are locked into 6th and 7th, which means one of them is automatically getting Europa League next year, and the other one will if Arsenal does not win the FA Cup. That's the other factor in play here, is that, as William mentioned in our interview, that spot goes to Arsenal if Arsenal win the FA Cup. So it's 6-7 Spurs Wolves. The question is which automatically gets Europa League. And then we go to the bottom of the table. Always one of the most dramatic and the most intense part of all this, the relegation battle. So here's why that win for Aston Villa against Arsenal mattered so much. Villa is now level with Watford on points, but up 1 in goal differential, meaning that right now Villa is safe. They jumped Watford in the table, but it's only 1 goal, which means even if Villa wins, if Watford, who now play Arsenal, win by 4 goals or 3 goals or even 2 goals and Villa squeak a 1-goal win, then you've got a different situation. So Watford, nobody is safe just because they win. But Villa is in the spot where it would be unlikely that they go down with a win. And there are other things that can happen. So Villa's in a very good spot. They've got the goal differential, but it's only 1, so Watford could still catch them. And then you've got the Bournemouth situation. So if Bournemouth win and both Aston Villa and Watford lose, Bournemouth is the team that stays up. So really all somebody needs to do is just get a point. And you're maybe safe, and you're definitely not 19th. Bournemouth is in the worst spot. It's really a question of Villa versus Watford. And Villa has the edge. So if they can basically just match the result and stay even on goal differential, Villa stays up. And that was not the case before that win against Arsenal, which is why it was so important. That's what we've got. It's a lot. Try and remember all of it, or just let the commentators continually tell you on Sunday, as things stand now, here's what's happening, because it could change very, very quickly, as we've talked about with all of these, particularly with the top 4. 1 goal changes everything, because it's a different scenario whether a team wins or loses, and of course, United playing Leicester really makes things interesting, particularly if Leicester score the first goal, because all United needs is a draw. So this is going to be phenomenal. We've got some really good matchups. Chelsea is playing, obviously, Wolves, and Wolves have something to play for still to make sure that they're 6th. So the teams involved in this top 4 race, and I'm throwing Wolves in there just because they're playing Chelsea, Nobody is playing a team sitting in the middle of the table with no incentive, which is just terrific. This is what you want. As I said at the top of the show, hopefully we can replicate what happened in the championship and just things going 500 million different directions and people just unsure of what's going to happen next and thinking they're safe and they're not safe, or they're in the playoff and not. And this is what it's all about. One game, everything to play for all of these teams, both top four, Europa League, and of course relegation. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk about all of it, full reaction. Additionally, baseball is back today. So Chris Brown is going to be here at 1 p.m. Eastern to get you ready for all things opening day. On his show Around the Bases, Josh Molnix will be back with the J Mole Show tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. We've got another project in the works at 110 Sports that we're really excited about, so be on the lookout for that. And our newsletter will come out tomorrow morning, as it does every Friday. You can sign up on our website to just get you everything you need to know that's happening in the world of 110 Sports, sort of a weekly recap of what's been going on. That way you don't miss any of our content. You know what's happening with all of our shows, all of that good stuff. Cannot wait for this weekend. It's going to be great. End of the Premier League, NWSL Challenge Cup final. Knockout stage of MLS is back. It doesn't get much better than this. We'll be back Tuesday, talk about all of it. Until then, have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you Tuesday.